seen it, but just a metal clip, 2 or 3 other.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I'd like to get one of those ones that you.
Nonchalantly, you're trained on what to do. Every one of them are. Just because you don't want to have that there. Yeah. Yeah. Do I? I'm sorry. Right. Vehicle, but not hit by a vehicle, but come close.
Well, we want to go home. We do want to go home.
Exactly. I was glad that point was made.
Rain and yeah, it's working nighttime.
You mean rescue? Yeah.
I guess they're going to ask me questions.
A short story. Leslie Gamble, AAA Oklahoma spokesperson. Anything else, guys? And I appreciate all you all being here today. I represent the 440,000 members of AAA Oklahoma, and this is a gathering that I know none of them would really want to be attending, just like the rest of us that are here. But even as most Oklahomans today are thinking about the storms that are rolling in or expecting that to happen, those who you see behind me know that their workforces aren't going to be seeking shelter. They're going to be out in the storms dealing with risks that we're talking about here today that are made even riskier than their usual conditions. So on average, 24 first responders and other roadside rescuers represented here today are killed every year while at work. It's a tragic loss of life every other week. AAA Oklahoma and our traffic safety partners have passed a strong move-over law here at our capital in Oklahoma here. We have that law, but clearly there's still work to be done to ensure safety of anyone who is either broken down on the roadside, the first responders who come to their aid, and many road and utility maintenance workers. We have a major disconnect between what motorists say and believe they do while driving, and what those who work on our roadsides experience. For the first time today, we want to share a quantification of this so that you all can help inform motorists and how we need them to change to help save lives. In August, AAA conducted a poll of 1,076 Oklahoma motorists. And I've given you all in our media the highlights of this. But just to go over it a little bit, when approaching an emergency vehicle with flashing lights on the side of the road, Oklahoma motorists say 98% of the time in the past year, they've slowed down every time or most of the time. 99% say they have changed lanes every time they were able or most of the time. We know that Oklahomans support a law, but in this survey we found out 29% were unsure whether there was even a law requiring them to slow down and move over, which there is, a very strong law. So then, during a week in September, AAA followed up with a survey of roadside workers, professionals that you see represented behind me. Their experiences and responses to a similar survey were quite different. We had 643 first responders, roadside workers answer this survey. And when we asked them, do you feel like motorists abide by the move over law? In other words, do they slow down and move over whenever it's safe to do so in order to give first responders stopped alongside of the road more room to do their job safely? Of our first responders and roadside workers answering this, 65% said no. And that jumped to 80% of those who were firefighters or EMTs, and 88% of tow truck drivers that responded. We also asked, have you personally ever been involved in a near-miss incident or felt your life was threatened because a motorist failed to slow down and move over? More than half, 51% of those that responded said more than once, but not often, but it's happened. And 86% of our law enforcement officers responded, yes, more than once I've had this occur, but not often. 35% of our first responders and roadside workers said they've experienced a near-miss incident or felt their life threatened. 35% said they routinely experience this. So today, ahead of National Slow Down Move Over Day, which is this coming Saturday, I'm grateful to be joined by representatives of hundreds of roadside workers in our state with an impassioned plea to motorists to give them room on the side of the road to do their job safely. Moving over and or at least slowing way down is the law, and it's just as serious a safety precaution as stopping at a stoplight. Each of these representatives behind me will introduce themselves and their organizations, starting with Sergeant Gary Knight, wrapping up with AAA Oklahoma's Mike Morrison. They'll briefly share either a story or some reflections that are personal to their organization related to the hazards on the roadsides and what causes them alarm. And then, of course, afterwards, if you want to ask any questions of any of them or mic up them individually, you're more than welcome to. Sergeant Knight.
Good morning, I'm Gary Knight, Master Sergeant Gary Knight, Oklahoma City Police Department. I've been a police officer in this city for 31 years. I was a patrolman for 13. And certainly in my time as a patrolman, I experienced several occasions where I guess you would call them near misses while working out on the roadways. Typically this was Broadway Extension. Broadway Extension ran through the district where I patrolled. And there were times, especially working nights, when people either saw the red lights and just chose to ignore the warning and didn't slow down or move over, or they were driving impaired and went sliding through a crash scene or a work scene going on out there, nearly killing somebody. Thankfully, I was never hit by one of these vehicles, but there were 2 or 3 times where you would classify that as a near miss, where either myself or a fellow officer was nearly killed. It's important to note that when these guys are out on the roadway, whether it's police officers, firefighters, EMS, road crews, you name it, they're all human beings with families out there. We ask that people just try to be mindful of that, and when you see them out on the roadway, just give them a little extra room, move over, slow down. Let's just make sure everybody makes it home safely. That's really all I've got. I'll turn it over to Taylor Henderson from ODOT.
Hello and good morning. My name's Taylor Henderson. I am the state maintenance engineer for Oklahoma. I'm here today representing the Department of Transportation and the Turnpike Authority. I personally have worked in the transportation industry for over 2 decades. I've either worked alongside the road, on the road, or supervised people that are doing the same. And I'll go ahead and say it too. I personally witnessed some of our mow crews when we were trying to maybe fix potholes or mowing, where our truck-mounted attenuator, due to the lack of attention from drivers, hit the back of that truck, and that attenuator saved the lives of our personnel. But we just ask that everybody pay attention when they're driving. Lay down your phone, look up. Again, this law is to move over and slow down. I know each day the DOT and the Turnpike Authority have over hundreds of people either working on the road or alongside the road. And this bill is a good thing to get people to slow down, move over, and allow our workers to help improve the roadway and the roadside for all the traveling public. Is there any questions? All right. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Lieutenant Kerry Bryan. I'm with the Norman Police Department and the Community Outreach Coordinator. I've been in law enforcement for 25 years, and just like Sergeant Knight, fortunately, I haven't had one of these situations happen to me, but I know of a couple of occasions where it's happened to our officers. This doesn't happen just on the highways. Norman has several highways, obviously I-35, State Highway 9, but we also have city streets, and it's happened on the city streets. So when you slow down and you move over, a lot of times you don't have a whole lot of room. Slow down first, and then try to find the best path around. And just remember, when you see the flashing lights, this isn't just the car. You've got an officer there. You may have multiple officers there. You may have people that's at the scene. So be aware that not only the lights, but there's going to be people around that. We also train our officers to approach on a traffic stop from the passenger side out of the roadway. It's not always able to do that. So please be aware that not only are you going to have officers, you may have civilians, you may have other workers, you may have record drivers, you may have other folks around that may not be able to be seen as quickly. So the first thing, slow it down and then move over and give them plenty of room to do their work. And I'll be followed by our friends at the Oklahoma City Fire Department.
Hi, my name's Jeff Chappell, Major with the Oklahoma City Fire Department. My current assignment is Rescue Ladder 18. I'm the officer on Ladder 18, been on for about 20 years now. We cover the northeast side of the city. We cover a large part of I-35, the Turnpike, and also all the city streets involved. We still see on a regular basis, we see many people scooting over like we asked, slowing down like we asked, but we also see numerous times people coming by at a high rate of speed. When we're out there working, we're working in the emergency scene, and we're actually there for a really good reason to try to help someone out. What we ask is that you move over. We understand that you can't always move over, so we ask that you slow down, because the reason we're there is we're trying to help somebody in an emergency situation, and the last thing we need to be worrying about is being hit while we're out there. Another thing we ask is that you actually pay attention to the surroundings around you, the other drivers. Many times we see people paying more attention to us on scene than they do to the other drivers around there, and oftentimes we see secondary wrecks caused from that. Oklahoma City's been fortunate on the fire department that we haven't had any major accidents recently, but in the past it has happened. So we ask, like everybody else has asked, that you please scoot over and slow down and allow us a safe environment to work. Thank you.
I'm Trooper Eric Foster with the Oklahoma Highway Patrol. You know, the men and women of the Oklahoma Highway Patrol work preeminently in traffic all the time. And across the state, we see this issue come up over and over again. On August 15th, 2021, I was sitting stationary in a construction zone when a driver that happened to be intoxicated came through a work zone and struck my car at approximately 62 miles an hour. The real miracle of that was there was a work crew just ahead of my patrol car. Had that patrol car not been sitting there, probably many people would have been killed because of that. The signage was up for the construction zone. It was clearly marked, yet someone came through that construction zone and could have caused somebody else's life. We're grateful that there wasn't a lot of injury in that situation, and that was just providential. But with the Oklahoma Highway Patrol, we see this all the time, that people come through a construction zone or people pass a collision scene or a traffic stop. They don't slow down, they don't move over. It is state law. In 2015, my friend and partner, Nicholas Dees, was struck and killed by a driver that was distracted while Trooper Dees was investigating a collision scene. He was my friend, he was my partner, so it hits me very close to home to see that. I would just reach out and say to all of those listening and watching, please, when you see lights, whether they're red and blue, whether they're amber, whether they're hazard lights on a car, to move over, to change lanes. Do not pass in that adjacent lane, to move over and decrease your speed. It's the law. Please do that to keep you safe and to keep everybody else around you safe.
Hi, my name is Mike Morrison. I represent AAA. We have about 600 members we take care of a day. We're just, when you see the lights, just move over, slow down. We see a lot of accidents out there. We take care of a lot of accidents. I see a woman one time run into the back of a car. She gets out, they get out. He lets her go. And we're going down the road, she does it again, hits another car. She wasn't paying attention, she was on her cell phone. So just please, move over. Just watch out for us. Thank you.
AAA has had 2 tow truck drivers killed in the last 4 months in our nation here, and so it's one of the reasons we're putting such an emphasis on this. There's also a non-AAA tow truck driver in Bixby that was killed earlier this year. So the message that we all want to convey to your viewers is that driving is very serious, and it's not something you can do safely without being 100% focused. Be fully engaged in driving every moment that you're behind the wheel. No one ever wakes up in the morning and thinks they're going to be running into a broken down vehicle on the side of the road or a roadside worker. No one has that intent. But our hurrying to get to our destinations, our lack of attention, use of alcohol and drugs, and distractions that we may think don't have any impact on us, they don't affect our response time, we think. We give excuses like we're good, we have good judgment, we're good drivers. Well, those are the things that are killing our devoted public servants. And so I want to thank you guys for getting this message out and for being here today. Feel free to interview and film any of these that you would like to.